Hello, everyone. Welcome. In the last talk, I criticized the discussion of creationism versus uh, evolutionists. Uh, the I criticized the both sides, and for saying that they argued on the level of evidence or experience only. And each side, of course, has its own merits, but also they have their own defects in their argument. But my point is, I stress that they don't show knowledge of discussing the methodology they are using. That's to me, that seems to me as a problem. The methodology they used is arguing about experience, and that's only chance related. If you come to this, you will have this. If you don't, you missed. You missed. It's also called induction. Induction logic has its problem. That's in the saying, there's no swan is I mean all the swans in the world are white. You can say that as long as you don't know any other color swans exist, right? And until you find out that in Australia there is really black swans existing, so you know you are wrong. You're right, right? It's like a Hume, David Hume criticized because the sun rises every day, so you assume it will go on like this forever. It will rise again tomorrow. That's wrong because it's induction logic and it has its own defects. Okay, as long as you live, you probably will see the sun rise every day, but it doesn't guarantee that it will rise again tomorrow forever. Okay, that's a very obvious problem. Uh, this is a summary for the debates so far from the quite few videos I watched in YouTube. Some are pretty recently. They are done this year or last year in the past few years. Most of them are. Uh, another, then I go on to the next question. What are the biologists doing right now? And I find out they do have problems in their own field. For example, one video listed 25 biological problems or questions facing biologists today. And the last one, the fundamental one, is why we cannot create life on Earth or in the laboratories. Why? We know they are the life is everything boils down to the bottom is DNA or called the RNA or XNA. They are just a few atoms to our knowledge. They are either they are sort of like a nitrogen, oxygen, neutron, carbons, phosphorus, uh, something like that in the the curved, the double curved, turning around the shape of the RNA. You know what I mean? I mean because I cannot show you the picture, but it's like that. The problem is they are the sequence of information, and the people, no matter what they do, they just can have difficulty to create them. One video showed that some scientists in the library think that's because those basic elements are not put in the right order, like cooking some cookies. You have flour, you have egg, you have sugar, you have all sorts of ingredients. If you just lump somely, put them all in a pot, and stir them, then put into the oven, they won't work. You won't get good cookies. But you have to bake, let's say, boil water first, then put flour in, then boil it or cook it for another, let's say, 5 minutes, then do something. You do it on a procedural level, in the order that master chef, a master chef does, then you have good cookies eventually. They think life can be created that way too, if we have the right order to manipulate the few basic elements like hydrogen, helium, neutron, carbon, things like that. And but that video I saw was made a few years ago. I think it's in 2012, and but so far I haven't heard anything from it or any other scientists in the world. I think there's probably 1,000 of laboratories are trying this. But here the problem, in my mind, is that they are wrong in method, or their methodology has a problem. Okay, here's the problem. Those biologists don't understand. You cannot explain upper level field with a lower level field. In other words, you cannot explain spiritual phenomena with social phenomena. You cannot explain social phenomena with biological phenomena. So on and so forth. You cannot explain biological phenomena like life with chemical phenomena. Okay? So it's the same for you cannot explain chemical phenomena with physical phenomena. Okay? Aristotle in early Greek period already told us the whole is more than the assembly of parts. In other words, when individual part, each of them, all are gathered together, all of them are gathered together, they produce something that is not shared in each individual part. Obviously, biologists don't understand this. They all try to use chemical to produce biological phenomena. That's wrong direction. Okay? And in philosophical world or in mathematics, we had this before. And it's not only from theory, from practice, it's the same thing. In the early time of last century, there's a guy called Herbert, okay, in Germany. He wanted to have a Herbert project that is to put all mathematical principles, everything in the mathematics, to reduce it to logic. He is a very, very ambitious, and he listed more than 20 problems to solve for this. And eventually, this built edifice collapsed because the Gödel's principle, okay, incomplete principle proves that everything in the math, if it's a formal system, it cannot be simply proven in the system. And also, I think there are two of them in the Gödel's theorems. A system cannot prove itself. That's very obvious reason. Okay, so all the biologists in the world, in their library, try to prove to use chemical to explain life, to create life, biological life. That's the wrong direction. They are wasting their efforts. Anybody who has philosophical training will realize that's a wrong direction to go. Okay. Okay, so that being said, I want to come down to the instancology and absolutology again. And from last talk or for the past few videos, I'm stressing is when the absolute creates the relative, it creates the additive with two things in it. Well, of course, first, something that is relative, that's one. But any one implies two things. Okay? First is one is matter, the other is life. The matter is the relative part. The life is the absolute part. It's like the mother gave birth to a child. The child inherits something from the mother. Okay, that is the case. And for our world, it's something. It's relative. It's one. Uh, in the West, discard is correct. Fundamentally, it's dualism. We have two. Okay. In the East, in China, we have somebody called Lao Tzu, and he says everyone can be divided into two. Okay. So they basically these wise men are the same, identical in their wisdom, in their knowledge. They summarize the world as long as it's a world, is something, it must come down to two parts. Okay, so life and matter are parallel. Okay, one cannot cross other to the other side. Okay, in this relative world. That's my point. Okay. Uh, Eventually, we come to this point. That is, we come to the brain. Okay, we have two sides of the brain. In this system of absolutology and instancology, I stressed the two sides basically come down to this. On the left is syntax, on the right is semantics. The left one is for old mathematical principles, logical principles, the syntax thing, the structural thing, but by itself, it doesn't have any interpretation. It just rules and how to follow rules, how to go forward. Okay. On the right side is a semantic part that is give meaning to the left side. You know, in the brain, we know it's left controls right, the right side controls left. It's a crossover controlling. So if you think that way, it's very, very reasonable. It's really very smart that way. Okay, the it's like the left side of the brain, like a computer is working, but when the program is finished, only people can interpret what that final result, the data means. Okay, so the two sides of the brain work like that. They cross each other, working together as long as they push logic forward and interpret what does the logic mean in each step. Okay, they coordinate very good. The last question I think I'll deal with is we know the absolute, when the absolute creates the relative, it is past it with the absolute part. That's what I call life. Okay, life eventually comes to be information, then finally to be the two small absolutes, I call it, in our brain. That is thinking of the left side and consciousness on the right side. Okay. Now the question is, can we humans with our localized two small absolutes pass the consciousness part or logical part? I think mostly more important is the consciousness part, the semantic part, to the thing in our thoughts, to the to become a reality in the sphere of spatial temporal dimensions. Can we do that? Let me give you an example. The absolute creates the world. The same principle can be used in brain, as I mentioned before. Okay, the brain creates thoughts, and in the morning, every day, creates thoughts. This thought, let's say, it's about a car. Okay, so the thought of a car in our brain. Okay, it's just like the mathematics or logic in the micro world, MICRO, macro world, okay, in the 实在 thought being, let's say that way. Okay, and in the later on in the spatial temporal place, we really created the car, right? The car is functioning, and we make it work. Okay, okay. Now the question is, we can create cars, we can create the internet, we can create airplanes, everything. All right, that's our human creation. God doesn't do that. God gave us the metals, the materials, everything else, and even human being. We come from the absolute, and but it doesn't give us a car, doesn't give us internet, and doesn't give us airplane. Okay, humans created those things. Okay, here's the crucial point. When the absolute creates the world, including us, humans, or Homo sapiens, they pass life to this something, to this world. So when environment are good enough or okay, and the life sprouts out, and we become human being, we develop into human being. Can we pass this part with our localized absolutes, the two small absolutes, pass the semantic part, an even smaller absolute, in other words, to the car, to the computer, to the internet, to make as intelligent as a smaller size of us, a smaller model of us? Can humans do that? That's a lot of people fear about. One day, robots, machines will control us. I think if we can succeed doing that, they will control us, or at least to be competitor of human beings, because they have an even smaller absolute in their minds. That is, they are consciousness of the things of the world as we are, but we are probably on a larger scale. The machines are on the smaller scale. Okay, but that's a problem. I'm saying that's impossible. Why? Because the absolute is not created with something. Okay, here's the crucial point. If you understand what absolute means, you will know absolute is not something. So we cannot pass an even smaller sized absolute into the machines, into the cars, into the internet. We just simply cannot do that. Whatever we can do is pass something that is syntax, mathematics, or rules, information in that sense, to the machine. We can do that, but we cannot simply cannot create something into nothing. Well, actually, it's not nothing. It's the absolute because everything we use is relative. Okay? The relative cannot create the absolute. That is crucial point. So from this point of view, we can certain machines will never catch up with humans. Our limited, localized, small absolutes, the pair of absolutes, can never catch up in function with the absolute because the absolute has that function. We, small absolute, cannot do that because we cannot create it. So that's a point. Think about that. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about today, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.